What's up, everyone? Welcome back to episode 4 of C&D Sports, where we give you daily updates, the boldest takes, and the best debates in all of sports. I'm Caleb Moody. That's Daniel Singh.
What's going on, guys? Today we have Floyd versus Logan, TikTok versus YouTube, NFL offseason updates, along with NBA and NHL playoffs.
Yeah, so we'll kick it off with the updates here. The NHL Draft Lottery happened this week. The Buffalo Sabres got the first overall pick. Seattle jumped up from the third best odds to take the second best pick. Anaheim rounds out the top 3. So it'll be interesting to see who they take there when the draft comes later in the summer.
Yeah, watch for Owen Powers to go 1 and Bernier's probably to go 2.
Yeah, that's looking like the unanimous decision at this point.
Yeah.
Moving to the hardwood there, Danny Ainge has retired from his role as president of basketball operations with the Boston Celtics, and head coach, now former head coach, Brad Stevens, takes over his role in the front office, and the Celtics are on the hunt for a head coach right now. Jason Kidd, who's assisting in Los Angeles right now, and Atlanta Hawks assistant Lloyd Pierce are the front runners to land that job at this point. So we'll get you all those updates when they come through out of Boston. Moving to tennis now, the French Open started on Sunday, and there's some big seeds that have gone out on both the men's and women's side. So let's start in the men's side there. Dominic Thiem, the 4th seed in the tournament, lost his first round matchup to Andujar. Rublev at 7, he's out. Bautista Agut at 11, and Gael Monfils at 12 are also out as well. Still a lot of big names in there. You've got your Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, but some big names have also been eliminated. On the women's side, the top 2 seeds both withdrew. Ashley Barty withdrew due to injury, and Naomi Osaka, who is going through a constant fight right now with the WTA in terms of media availability afterwards.
Yeah.
She decided to withdraw just to take any distraction away from the tournament. So we'll definitely get you more updates on that, as that's going to be a developing situation on where she goes from here. Also, the 3 seed Sabalenka, she's out as well. So the top 3 seeds all out. Andreescu at 6, she's out. Pliskova at 9. Belinda Bencic at 10. So there's a lot of the top 10 seeds are out there. So it'll be interesting to see who comes through and who wins that on the women's side. And sticking in Europe, the Euros start on Friday, the European tournaments in soccer. So those squads were named this week. Right now, France is looking pretty strong. England has a pretty strong team as well. I think France at this point would be probably the reigning World Cup champions would be my pick to win it all right now. But we'll definitely get you more updates on the Euros as we progress through the summer, as that's going to go on for a month. And now we'll move to the ring, as Jake Paul announced his 4th fight. He's looking to go 4-0. And he'll try to do so against ex-UFC fighter Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley been retired for a few years now. So that fight's going to take place August 28th. Jake Paul is definitely going to have a harder matchup this time around, as opposed to any of his first 2 fights and then Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Tyron's got a good right hand, 19 knockouts in his career. So definitely Jake can't sleep on that one, and he can't prepare like he did for Askren. So this is definitely going to be a tougher fight for him. Looking forward to that on August 28th. And with that, we're going to stick in the ring and stick with the Paul brothers, as Logan Paul is fighting Floyd Mayweather, arguably the greatest boxer of all time, on Sunday.
Yeah, this is going to be the most interesting fight we've seen in a while. First off, let's start with the rules. So no winners, no judges, unless there's a knockout.
Yeah. The knockout is the only way you can be declared a winner in this case.
Yeah.
Which I think this is better for
Logan.
I think it's better for Logan, and I think he probably, and if I were to guess, I don't know the details, but I think he was probably the one that probably instrumented these rules, because Floyd Mayweather's not a knockout guy.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather makes, he lives off making, fatiguing the other guys, so his opponents. So that's.
But then there's the weight limit rule, where if Logan's over 190 pounds, he gets fined $100,000 for each pound he's over.
Which is smart because Logan is very much bigger than Floyd.
Yeah.
This is also good because it does incentivize, like going back to the no winner rule, and the knockout is the only type of win you can get. It incentivizes Floyd to change up his strategy as well, which I think Logan is looking to do and get.
It's going to be more even.
It is as when
you would think.
When I first heard this fight. First of all, we're going to be talking about the TikTok YouTube fight later. If you had told me that Jake Paul is going to be fighting his 4th boxing match against his 2nd professional fighter.
Yeah.
If you told me that Logan was going to be fighting arguably the greatest boxer of all time in Floyd Mayweather.
Yep. And
TikTokers were going to be fighting YouTubers. If you told me that a year ago, I would have thought you were insane.
Yeah.
But here we are. This is the world we're living in, is everyone wants to be a boxer now. But yeah, like you were saying, I think this fight is a little more even than when they first announced that Logan was fighting Floyd. I think Logan kind of thought that he was going to lose now. I think Logan has done a great job at getting in Floyd's head. It's very, even when he was fighting McGregor and seeing all those press conferences where Conor McGregor is very, very much in your face. He's going to be,
annoying.
Yeah. And he's called the Notorious for a reason. So he's going to get in your head and he's going to bother you. But Floyd held his composure very well. I think Floyd's a little rattled about this one because, and maybe it's because they're not professional fighters.
Yeah.
And
well, Floyd can't lose.
He can't lose.
Or he can't get knocked out because that's the only way he's going to lose. Speaking of rules, the last 2 are 10-ounce gloves, no headgear, and 3-minute rounds.
Floyd's not wearing headgear. That was definitely Floyd's rule.
Yeah.
Floyd hasn't had to wear headgear since he was an amateur. So.
Yep. Yeah, and each round's going to be.
And what was the last rule?
3-minute rounds, and they're going to be a maximum of 8.
8 rounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's structured more as like a hybrid exhibition fight, which at this point Floyd's coming out of retirement for this, so
yep.
It'll definitely be more interesting than I first saw. I just thought it was going to be.
Oh, like I thought Floyd's going to
dance around this guy.
Yep.
And I
but with these rules, it definitely evens the odds.
I still think Floyd wins.
He should
because Logan's only fight has been the KSI,
or he should win or should tie.
Yeah. So I don't really see a way that Logan can win, but I can definitely see there being a tie because I don't think Logan's going to knock him out.
I don't think Floyd's going to knock Logan out.
Floyd lives off of his defense.
Yeah.
And he's arguably the best defensive boxer of all time and arguably just the best boxer
but if he
of all
wears
time.
him down like he did McGregor,
yep,
he could get a knockout in that sense where he just keeps going at him in the later rounds.
I don't think Floyd's going for the first round or a second round knockout. Mm-hmm. Like I think Floyd is definitely still going to play the long game and still going to use the fact that I'm an old man now, but I've still got more stamina than a YouTuber.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely interested in that fight. And then just looking briefly at the undercard, seeing Chad Ochocinco Johnson on there, is kind of hilarious.
Who's he gonna fight?
Who's he gonna fight? Yet. At this point, he's just shadow boxing in the ring on Sunday. Yeah. So, and then Badu Jack is the one guy on there. He fought on the undercard to the fight in November, and that was Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., and that's where Jake Paul knocked out Nate Robinson in the very meme-like fashion. But Badu Jack, I was watching him there. I like Badu Jack. He's interesting, someone I'm looking forward to seeing on that night.
Yep.
But yeah, it'll be more interesting than, again, we thought it would be. So
yeah, for sure. Now, TikTok versus YouTubers, you have a lot of guys here just going for the money, but I think it's going to be a funny event, to say the least. I don't know how seriously these guys are taking it. Some of them are. Some of them haven't even started training.
That press conference was terrible.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because the hosts weren't great. There was a lot of technical issues right off the bat. I noticed that of people not having their mics turned up. It looks like what we expect. Like, it's not going to be very organized. It's definitely something that seemed like it was thrown together on a
It's like
whim.
a high school project, man. Like
It's
they're just putting it together on the fly.
I don't see very many good fights in here, as I guess we'll just go from the first fight on here, just predict our winners here.
Yep.
Ryan Johnston, Kale Siraj. I don't really know anything about either of these guys. But the fact that I heard that Kale Siraj is only taking a week and a half to prepare for this,
Yes.
I'm taking Ryan Johnston.
Yep.
Like, you can't, any sort of match, if you actually want like an organized boxing match, you cannot spend that little time. I mean, it doesn't really matter because it's not really professional fights anyways, so who really cares? But
Yeah.
I'm going with Ryan Johnston on that one. And then we have Landon McBroom and Ben Azalart.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Who do you have? Ryan Johnston, Kale Siraj.
Ryan Johnson. Yeah.
Okay. And then, Landon McBroom, Ben Azalart.
Landon McBroom's been training, so I'd want to lean towards him.
I want to lean toward. I really hope Ben Azalart wins because Ben Azalart's a nice guy. He definitely just came there as just like, I'm here for a new experience.
Yeah.
Not like a lot of the guys who are like just the money. Like, I'm just here to get paid.
Yep.
But probably Landon McBroom. But again, I'm rooting for Ben Azalart, but Landon McBroom will probably get that one.
Yep.
So as of right now, that's 2-0 YouTube.
Yeah.
Tanner Fox and Ryland Storms. Tanner Fox is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
He's got that crazy energy there. Again, I don't really know
Crackhead energy.
I don't really know who Ryland Storms is.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go Tanner Fox.
Yep,
I think he's gonna come out swinging, coming out quick.
3-0 YouTube.
I think that one ends quickly. So
Yeah.
3-0 YouTube. FaZe Jarvis, Michael Lee. Michael Lee is taking the high road approach and not trash talking anyone really. I think he tried to pull a stunt or anything and like message FaZe, but FaZe ended up screen recording everything and stuff and making his own video out of it.
Do you want to start fake beef or something?
Yeah, FaZe wasn't necessarily about that. I don't really know who to take. Like, I know both of these guys. I know FaZe Jarvis a little better. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to lean towards FaZe Jarvis because I think he's a little more serious about getting into fighting. So,
okay.
Who are you going with on that one?
I don't know. I'll piggyback off you and let's go FaZe Jarvis.
And we got DDG and Nate Wyatt.
Yeah.
Now, Nate Wyatt would obviously have been preparing because he lives with Taylor Holder. So obviously Taylor Holder's been fighting for a while. We'll get to his fight in a few minutes here. DDG just dropped a great remix with Damian Lillard off of a Tyler Yahweh song. But like DDG he's definitely been in the booth music wise. Don't really know how much he's been preparing for this fight.
Yeah.
DDG doesn't like Nate Wyatt. It was the first real beef we were seeing between guys. Mm-hmm. So I think at this point the fights get a little interesting now because these guys actually don't like each other.
Yep.
They're definitely going to be going for the knockout, not necessarily for the payday.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go Nate Wyatt though. I think Nate Wyatt's prepared a little more for this.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
That'll be an interesting fight though. Then we move to someone who has actually been in an organized boxing match.
Yep.
Deji, who lost to Jake Paul. It was one of Jake Paul's first wins.
Yeah.
He's fighting Vinny Hacker. I got to go with Deji. Vinny's just there for the payday.
Yep.
They actually don't have real beef with each other.
No.
Everyone seems to have beef with Deji, as you saw Bryce Hall with his infamous "I'm talking to a computer, you don't scare me"
that and
line.
Taylor Holder.
Yeah, and he apparently they say that he turned down a fight with Taylor Holder. He denies that. Who really cares at this point if he fought him or not? I think eventually down the road we might see a fight like that.
Yeah.
Deji's pretty good.
Well, at the press conference, Bryce Hall said he wants KSI. Then Taylor Holder said he'd fight Deji. I don't know. We'll see.
So we'll see what happens there if KSI actually takes the time of day to fight Bryce. Probably not at this point. He's doing a lot. He's got a lot of other focuses. So I'm going to go with Deji on that one.
Yep.
So that would take the total now to 5-1
Yep.
for YouTube.
Here's where it gets really interesting. But
this is the fight I'm actually, from a boxing standpoint, looking forward to seeing.
yeah.
And Eason Gibb, Taylor Holder, and Eason Gibb is just a funny guy to talk to.
Yeah.
So it almost looks like he's not taking it seriously, but he is.
Yeah.
Because he loves boxing. Again, there's another guy that Jake Paul beat. Taylor Holder has been fighting for, he says, about 7 years now. I don't think he's been in an organized fight, so we'll see what, when the spotlights are on and, people are cheering for him, what happens there if the nerves set in. But that'll be, from a boxing standpoint, the best fight of the night, I think.
Probably, yeah.
And I'm really split on this.
Tough. Yeah, I don't know who I'd pick. I want to lean towards Holder because I think he's bigger, but I'm not too sure.
I'm going to go Gibb because I think everyone expects Holder.
Okay.
And I think even he expects it. But yeah, I'm going to go with Gibb because I think Gibb has nothing to lose on this one.
That is
Again,
true.
it's a payday, and he's got a nice, cushy YouTube job right now.
Yep.
Taylor Holder's been hyping it up, especially hanging around Bryce Hall for so long. Like, both of them have been hyping him up. So I'm going to go Gibb on that one.
I think the next one, I don't know if it's a hot take, but I got Austin McBroom over Bryce Hall.
I got Austin McBroom too. I saw the Bryce Hall sparring videos.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was him trying to get in his head. I just don't really think he's prepared to defend the face.
Yeah. He kind of fights like a T-Rex.
Yeah,
Like, he does a lot of that.
All the punches are down here, and they're saying after he punches, he's not bringing them up here. And that's the thing. If you get hit on the chin, it's over. It's good night.
Yeah.
Your night's over there. I'm going to go Austin McBroom too. I'm not...
Even when at the press conference, Bryce Hall charged him, I saw McBroom to be the one standing.
When the cameras are on, at some point I just think it's almost a show for Bryce Hall.
Yeah.
Because the amount of times you see him fighting at clubs, you see him fighting in the street, this guy can't be that angry all the time.
Well, it's just steroids, man.
Yeah, he's reportedly been on steroids before. Apparently, he's not on them now, from what I've heard.
The veins in the neck.
Who knows?
He was really red at that press conference.
Yeah, I'm not accusing him of anything, but there's definitely, he can't be that angry all the time. There's something up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bryce Hall is all talk here. I don't really see a great fight there. But definitely looking forward to that Gibb Taylor Holder. I'm going to go McBroom, which would give
for you
astounding 7-1.
That's 7-1, and I got 6-2 with
6-2.
Holder.
You've got Holder
over Gibb.
That's the only difference we have. So
but I don't know. I'm done with this. If you're done, I think let's move on to the NFL offseason.
When I see these fights, I cannot wait for Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder in July. Just announced that too this week. The third time those guys will be fighting, just to see a nice hyped up professional boxing match. This is getting a little annoying in my opinion.
Fair enough. So NFL offseason, we have some winners and some losers so far.
Yeah.
So we like roasting people on this show. Let's start with a loser.
Let's start with a loser.
Yes, sir.
So I've prepared a few teams that I think have not done well this offseason. Let's start with the one that we have talked about on the show. Let's start with Green Bay.
Sure.
Because we've mentioned before in the updates section that Aaron Rodgers, he's not happy. The reigning MVP wants out of Green Bay. Really the only reason that Green Bay played Tom Brady in the NFC Championship last year. Yeah, I don't really blame him at this point. They're not giving him weapons to throw to. They're not giving him weapons to hand off to. He still has Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is still one of the top-rated running backs in the league. But they did it again. Like last year, they traded up to draft a quarterback in the first round when they desperately needed a wide receiver to complement Devontae Adams. And they did it again. They didn't trade up this time, but they drafted a safety in Eric Stokes. So they're not giving they're not making Rodgers want to stay from a long-term standpoint. They didn't really go out and get anyone in free agency of significant note. So I don't really, at this point, I don't really see a way that he can come back unless Brian Gutekunst is fired.
Yeah.
Because that's what he said. He has to be fired or I'm not coming back. And I don't really think Aaron Rodgers has anything to lose at this point. I don't think he cares if he retires. And frankly, I think he sees some other teams in the NFC. There's one other team that we'll talk about in the winner section for sure that I think he views as a huge obstacle standing in his way of winning his second Super Bowl. So it's not good in Green Bay. They didn't do anything to really make it better. This is not the first time that Aaron Rodgers has been unhappy. He was very unhappy last year in the draft when they drafted Jordan Love. And he says it's nothing against Love. He says he likes the guy. He likes working with him. But obviously when you're a quarterback, you want people to throw to. That'll make you better. And he just doesn't really have that other than Devontae Adams and maybe Robert Tonyan at tight end. But that's about it. So Green Bay is probably the first loser in terms of the offseason of note right now.
All right, so a winner.
Well, let's just talk about that other NFC team that I mentioned. Let's get that right off the bat. The Tampa Bay Bucks were a winner this offseason.
Yep.
The reigning Super Bowl champions. They brought back all of their big pieces, which is almost unheard of for a reigning Super Bowl champion. They brought back Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and Chris Godwin in terms of the offense. Brought back Shaq Barrett and David on the defensive side. So I really see them as I could very well see them going back to back here.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that they have much competition in the NFC this year. I think they go back, and I think they can, run it up again. Let's go for number 2, like Tom Brady says.
All right. There you have it. A loser.
Let's go with the Houston Texans. They're another obvious one. They started the offseason with Deshaun Watson wanting out, and then it was back and forth. Well, we don't want to trade you, and he's like, well, I don't want to play for you, and he really had a reason not to want to play there.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien really messed that team up. He traded away one of the top 3 receivers in the league in DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and all these draft picks. Couldn't even get a first-round draft pick for him.
Yeah.
So, and then not to mention, they didn't have a first-rounder this year after trading all that away for Laramie Tunsil, who Laramie Tunsil does not play for them anymore. So they had no draft picks, no first-round draft picks this year, no real hope for the future. Deshaun Watson wanted out, and then the allegations came in.
Yeah.
With alleged sexual misconduct from Deshaun Watson and multiple women coming forward. And now it's to the point where even today I was reading things of people saying that people have to stop talking about Deshaun Watson being traded this year because it's not going to happen, because he's probably not going to play this year. I don't see a way for him to play this year. I think he ends up on the commissioner's exempt list.
Yep.
I'm not saying that this is the end of his career, but if it was, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's definitely not the type of personality and the type of distractions that you want in a locker room right now.
Yeah.
As it would look like it was almost a done deal that he was going to the Jets, and then all this came out. Jets drafted a quarterback. There's really nobody's going to trade for him now. Tyrod Taylor just came out today and basically said that I'm going to be the starter in Houston this year. So it doesn't look good for Deshaun Watson right now. Great quarterback, but yeah, the off-field issues are really taking over. And yeah, again, Houston had no draft picks to really give them hope for the future either. So yeah, Houston had a very bad offseason.
Fair enough. All right, a winner.
Let's go in terms of a winner. Well, we just mentioned the Jets, so let's go with the New York Jets.
Sure.
So the New York Jets, they trade away Sam Darnold, who was, when he was drafted in the same year as Baker Mayfield at 3rd overall. He was supposed to be the savior of this franchise, and then he started playing teams like the Patriots when they still had Tom Brady, and he got caught on mic saying that he was seeing ghosts out there. New York fans did not like that.
Yikes.
He was definitely pressured, and I think Sam Darnold has a lot of potential, and I think he'll do well in Carolina. Obviously, they didn't get the greatest return for him, but the fact that they got rid of him and both of them get fresh starts, I think that's the best for him. Now that he's not playing under Adam Gase, who is notoriously very bad for coaching offensive players, and offensive players excel the year after they leave him. Just ask guys like Robbie Anderson, Ryan Tannehill. They do play a lot better once they don't play for Adam Gase. So I think he'll do well with the Panthers. They replaced him with also their new future, Zach Wilson, who a lot of people were comparing him to the same type of skill set as Patrick Mahomes when he was being scouted, which would be super if they could get him. Yeah, he's got a great arm. They did well with drafting protection for him too, trading up to draft Elijah Vera Tucker at 11. So the offensive line looks stronger. With the Jets, we talked about Adam Gase. Adam Gase is out of the picture. They go and get Robert Saleh at head coach. So I think Robert Saleh, great defensive mind, which is something that they need considering they finished with 2 wins last season. So they did well with him. Also signing defensive end Carl Lawson. That'll be big. And then getting wide receivers to complement Jamison Crowder with Corey Davis, who analytically is one of the best pass catchers in the league. And they also pair him with Denzel Mims, who will be coming for his sophomore season with New York, definitely looking to break out there. I think the Jets will... I'm not saying the Jets are going to make the playoffs, but I think they definitely won and will definitely improve long term.
Fair enough. And then your final loser?
Final losing team is I've seen some people say that they won this offseason. I don't think they did. The New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I don't like Cam Newton there. Cam Newton did not play well there at all. He was not throwing touchdowns.
No, he hasn't been a good fit.
No, he hasn't been a good fit. I mean, they did win 7 games with him, and that's something that they will note that, Cam wasn't great, but we still won 7 games. So it looked like an off year for Cam. Definitely the worst season of his career to date. But I don't like him there. They did draft Mac Jones at 15, fresh off a national title with Alabama. I don't see him starting this year. I don't know. I don't see Mac Jones as necessarily being a big threat in the future. I'm not a huge fan of Mac Jones just as a player. And then they made probably the most bizarre move I saw this offseason. They signed 2 top-end tight ends in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So are they just running 2 tight end offenses, which no one really runs anymore? They're spending a lot of money for guys that are only going to play half the time. I thought it was a little ridiculous. And Julian Edelman retired. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Edelman in Tampa Bay to reunite with Tom Brady, which would make them just absolutely stacked. But yeah, Julian Edelman's gone, so they lose another wide receiver. So it's really the N'Keal Harry show there. I don't think the Patriots make it. I think they miss back-to-back playoffs now, which is something that's almost unheard of in New England. So
yeah,
I don't think they did enough to really propel them above teams like the Bills or the Dolphins in that division.
Yep. Then your last winner.
Here's one that I like. I like what they did this offseason. The Washington football team. By the way, I really like the name. I'm not kidding. I'd keep the name as the Washington football team because a lot of people hate it, but everyone notices it. So it's good.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Press.
That
People
is true.
People are following them. I like it. It's non-controversial. So
Yeah.
we'll start off with they used the franchise tag to bring back Brandon Sheriff. And that Brandon Sheriff is really the heart and soul of that offensive line. I thought that was a brilliant signing that they can get him back for another year while they try to hopefully negotiate a longer-term deal with him. And they gave their new quarterback that they signed, Ryan Fitzpatrick. They've got the Fitz magic there in Washington. And they gave him weapons. He already has Terry McLaurin, very underrated receiver. They added Curtis Samuel out of Carolina, and Adam Humphries. They signed him away from Tennessee. So he's got options to throw to now. which is just great for them. They really have a solidified top 3 receiving core, or in terms of, they've got a solidified like top 3 in their depth chart. I wouldn't say that Washington's a top 3 receiving core in the league. They signed William Jackson at quarterback away from Cincinnati. I like the moves that they made. Washington, in a very bad NFC East division, I think they did enough to even improve. I mean, they made the playoffs with a losing record. I think they make the play. I think they could definitely have a winning record this year now, especially now that they're playing 17 games this year. I could see them going, 9-8 or something like that this year.
Yep.
Fitzpatrick can win you some games on his own. He did that with the Dolphins. So yeah, they're probably my final winner of this offseason.
Okay. That's it.
That's it there, yeah.
Let's move on over to the NBA playoffs. Every series is completed at the time we're filming, except for the LA Clippers and Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
But let's start with Utah-Memphis.
Yeah.
Fantastic series for Ja.
Yeah.
Really stepped up. I think you agree he was the best player in the playoffs. So far.
Yeah, so far I think he has been. He's really taken that Memphis team to places that we didn't. I kind of expected just to sweep when Memphis got in there.
I think a sweep would have been possible if Donovan Mitchell was there for game 1.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them getting past Golden State or getting past that play-in round, which they did. They proved us wrong, and they did so well.
And it was Ja that did that.
Yeah.
Ja got them there almost single-handedly. He had a good outing from Dylan Brooks in game 1, who put up 31, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, once Mitchell came back, that team looked complete. The Jazz looked like the best team in the NBA, which they finished the regular season as.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surely no stopping them.
No, there isn't. They're a deep team.
At least not by Memphis.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, applause to Ja. We have the Clippers and Dallas. Dallas got their lead back. It's 3-2. Luka is phenomenal.
He's doing it on his own, and it's working.
Yes, he's legitimately doing it on his own. There's really no support.
Tim Hardaway Jr. has had a good series. He had a 28-point game in game 1, and he had a 20-point game in game 5. But other than that, that's really been. I think Porzingis has a 20-point game in there, but there's been no consistency.
No,
it's been Luka's been the only consistent guy, and maybe he has one other person help him out there.
Maybe, yeah. There's no reliability on that depth chart.
The bench presence has not been there. I expected more out of Jalen Brunson and company, and
Yep.
it has not been there.
But
I think they can get out of it.
Yeah, it's very possible. I don't know what the Clippers do from here. They absolutely need to win this series because if Kawhi leaves and they have to go through a rebuild, it's going to take them years to bounce back.
Bold take. If they lose this series, Kawhi's gone.
Oh, I don't think that's bold.
No ifs, ands,
that's
or buts.
not bold.
I think he
he's gone.
very well looks at Miami as a possibility to go play on a team that's close to making it back to the finals.
Clippers have to go deep, but even then, I think Kawhi wants out.
Yeah.
But anyways, Denver and Portland. Damian Lillard is the greatest clutch player of our generation. He put up 55 points in Game 5.
12 threes.
Yeah. And what was it? I believe he scored 19 of whatever they got in double overtime.
Absolute mad lad.
Like 19 points in 2 quarters. And 2 overtime quarters where they're supposed to be shutting you down.
And they still lost.
Yeah, because it was just him. He put up 19 points and the rest of the team, I think, got 21 or something. He got 19 of 21 points. Something like that.
Yeah. There's very few players I feel like very bad for, and Dame's one of them. That guy just never gets the lot. Like he's made the Western Conference Finals once.
Yeah.
And
to be outed by Golden State
to be out of
7. That series went the distance.
I don't think it did. I think it went 6.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. They took him for a ride.
Yeah.
But, I feel bad for him. He really has not had the consistent support there. It didn't help that, they could have finished a little better this year if Nurkic hadn't gone out for extended periods of time with his wrist injury, if Zach Collins hadn't been out. I think if they had had guys like Norm Powell there from the beginning,
Yeah.
it would have been good. And if only they had had Carmelo Anthony from his Knicks days. He looked a little inconsistent, especially in the playoffs.
Yep.
And also, maybe I have another bold take here. Dame does not come back to Portland next year.
Really?
There, apparently, I was watching First Take today, and Stephen A. Smith said a lot of his sources had been saying there's a lot of teams that had been kicked out of the playoffs in the first round that were calling Portland's front office inquiring about Damian Lillard, the Knicks being reportedly one of them. Knicks have a ton of cap space this year.
Yep.
And the Knicks look promising with Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley. I think in any trade, Emmanuel Quickley might have to go back. But, we'll break that down if and when it happens.
Yep.
But I don't think Dame is back there next year. I think this is the last straw. I think he's probably getting frustrated at this point and does want to win. He said he's never going to ring chase. And I don't think he will. I think he'll go to a team where he still has to work for it.
Yep.
But another team that has a lot of money, that big market team, Chicago Bulls, they're looking promising now. So I think that might be a team to look out for. But yeah, I don't think Dame comes back.
Okay. I'm not sure about that one. We'll definitely have to see how that goes. But Phoenix and LA, Anthony Davis.
Street clothes Davis says, as Charles Barkley's calling him now.
Yeah.
He's always injured. He's injured when it matters most. He wasn't there. He wasn't there for them in Game 6.
For this season, those two injuries, because both of their stars were injured. LeBron was playing hurt. It was very obvious he was playing hurt. LA should have known not to put Davis in because he saw in the 5 minutes he was not prepared to play.
No.
And had they prepared to play without him, they would have had a shot at that game.
They would have.
Lakers were fantastic in the second half. But now they were benching Paul and Booker because they were up so much.
Yeah.
But still, it would have been more competitive had they not played Davis and prepared their game plan around not having Davis.
And did somebody turn back the clocks again? Because LeBron James walked out on his team in the playoffs again.
Yeah.
2010, he walked out on the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals when they were losing to the Celtics. Walked out in Game 6. Last night, walked out in Game 6. Just under 8 minutes left in the fourth. They were only down by 12.
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma puts up a bad shot. He says, "I'm done." Walks off, and Phoenix proceeds to blow them out after that. So it was not a good look. It just been a frustrating year for the Lakers, having to go through the play-in, missing LeBron for a third of this, really half the season at that point.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis was out for a while. Anthony Davis has missed a third of his games over the past 3 years. So he's missed a full season.
Yeah.
Really. I'm not saying that the Lakers are done. I think they definitely look to add this offseason.
Oh, they definitely need to.
They're not a 7 seed.
No, there's too much strain on their big two guys, and that's really all they had.
A lot of people slept on Phoenix, though. And I was one of the people that said, don't sleep on this team. They're deep. And they did what I thought they were going to do.
The issue for me is I didn't realize how hurt LeBron and AD were.
I don't think anyone realized how hurt LeBron was.
Yeah.
I think AD was a little different because we come to expect AD's injuries at this point.
But the thing is at the end of the season, there were games where he's putting up numbers.
He was. But yeah, I kind of saw an AD injury coming.
Yeah.
Kind of. But he did play well early on in games 2 and 3. Like after both him and LeBron had a terrible game 1 where they put up 29 points combined.
Yeah.
He played well in game 2 and 3. He was almost unguardable at that point. And then he went down in game 4, didn't play game 5, showing off those street clothes. But I picked it because I had Phoenix going to the finals. I kind of saw this coming. Again, didn't realize how injured LeBron was. But yeah.
Yep. So for the West, we have Utah versus probably Dallas, maybe the Clippers. We have Phoenix versus Denver. And let's move on to the East.
Yep.
Philadelphia takes out Washington in 5.
And I think someone picked Washington to move on.
I did. I did pick Washington to move
clown.
on. Looking foolish there.
Yeah.
I gotta say, disclaimer, I wasn't overly serious about this NBA bracket. Not to backpedal.
You say that now.
Not to
You say that
backpedal.
now.
Because I had all my cards in on Brooklyn winning the East.
Yeah.
If I could have a second chance here, I'll take Philadelphia. But they're going up against Atlanta, who took out the Knicks.
Yep.
And with Joel Embiid out, I think Atlanta has a legitimate shot.
And it'll be tricky because they haven't ruled Joel Embiid like out.
Yeah, long term.
They like he's still considered day to day, but without him, they're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have enough to beat the Wizards without him, with Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris,
Yeah.
Seth Curry.
But Atlanta's a real team.
Atlanta's a real team, and Atlanta is a lot more real of a team than I expected them to be.
Yep.
Against the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks, Barrett and Randall, for the most part, did not show up. Their best player was Derrick Rose, which is all right,
he
but
can't
he
be
can't
your
be your
best
number
player.
one.
No.
For a team on a deep run, at best he's got to be third.
Yeah.
To get a series over Atlanta, he's at best got to be your second option.
Yeah, for sure. And can we just say that Trae Young has arrived?
Oh, for sure.
That was the one thing when I picked the Knicks to win. I picked it off of their
regular season.
The regular season, they had, I think it was the second best defense behind the Lakers in the league. Their defense didn't show up.
No.
It did not show up, and I think the one thing I was forgetting, I thought that there would be a lot of guys that would have to step up to complement Trae Young. I did not take into account that Trae Young was going to step up himself.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different Trae, and he even has that attitude. He's got that swagger where he's bowing to the fans at MSG.
Yeah.
He is, like, he looks comfortable, and he looks like this is the stage for him. And I want to bring this up here. Trae Young will always be known as the guy that they flip-flopped picks with for Luka Doncic.
Well, it was Trae Young, and they got the first the following year.
Yeah.
From Dallas.
But they could have had Luka. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like, Luka Doncic is considered, maybe the next best, the next man up.
Yeah.
As the best player in the league, and he's looking like it now. But Trae Young's advanced to the second round. If Dallas doesn't advance to the second round, Trae Young's gone farther in the playoffs than Luka Doncic has. Dallas has never moved on.
Yeah, but Dallas doesn't have a team.
I just think it's interesting that Trae Young with a Hawks team that was bad. The Hawks didn't get invited to the bubble last year.
Yeah.
People expected them to do better. I don't think people expected them to finish fifth and then to beat the Knicks.
But again, the Knicks weren't the regular season Knicks.
No.
Not to discredit the Hawks for their win.
No.
Because I still think they have a legitimate shot, and I'm almost ready to pick them over Philadelphia. I would have to see how game one goes.
I would not be shocked if they beat Philadelphia.
No, not at all.
I think they match up
either way now.
They match up better against Philadelphia than the Knicks would. So
yeah.
And if they don't have Joel Embiid, Clint Capella and John Collins are about to eat.
Yes.
And they are about to go to town in the paint.
Yep.
So that'll be. I'm looking forward to watching the Sixers Hawks.
Yep. So then you have the Milwaukee sweep over Miami. Butler and the boys did not show up.
It's not the bubble anymore.
Yeah. They have real pressure on them, real fans in attendance.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know what to say after watching that game one. We talked about it last week. After watching that game one, I thought it was going to be a lot better of a series.
Yeah.
I thought even after going down 3-0, I thought that I didn't think that Jimmy Butler would allow a sweep to happen, even with how bad he was in games 2 and 3.
They weren't there mentally.
No, and they weren't there. And again, we talked about it last week. I question why Tyler Hero was buried on the bench like that. There was a lot of things that I thought were a little weird about Bam Adebayo. Wasn't, the Bam Adebayo we saw in the bubble that almost single-handedly took down the Celtics. It was constantly into Adebayo, in the paint to Adebayo.
Yeah.
And, that it wasn't there. They countered it very well. Brook Lopez did a good job on him. Giannis did a good job on him.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Bucks have a big three. People have to realize that Chris Middleton has stepped up and
Yeah.
scored. And Drew Holiday, they've taken a lot of the pressure off of Giannis. They look complete.
Yeah.
And for the sake of Mike Budenholzer's job, he has to. They have to make the Eastern Conference Finals. They've already said they're changing coaches if they don't make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, which is going to be tough because they're playing Brooklyn, who took out not the Boston Celtics. They took out Jason Tatum.
Yeah, Boston Celtics didn't show up.
No. Except for one game, and that game they won. Kemba wasn't there at all.
No, Kemba was there. I think there was one game in the playoffs. He played pretty well. He was there in the play-in tournament. He played well, but we did not see a consistent Kemba. But I mean, it was consistent in the sense that this is the Kemba we saw all season.
Yep.
He was injured for the first month plus of the year, came back, never really found his footing. I don't think this is going to be a trend. I think if Kemba is healthy, start of next year, I think we're going to see the Kemba we are used to seeing.
Yeah.
The Charlotte Kemba, the first year Boston Kemba. You know, he took them and was a huge part in their Eastern Conference Finals run. They were close to knocking out Miami. So I think even with the changes of Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens and the new coach, I think this team is in a decent spot. And if they had Jaylen Brown,
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown is their second best player.
Oh, for
And
sure.
to be honest, there were certain points that next to Jason Tatum, even Jaylen Brown, injured on the bench, was their second best player of that series. They don't have a big man.
But imagine going from 2018, that 2018 Boston Celtics team with so much hope.
So much hope.
It seems like it's all been pissed away.
It makes you miss the 1980 Celtics, the 2008 Celtics, which really made me love basketball.
Yeah.
I just want those glory days back for Boston. It's good for basketball, not just as a Celtics fan, but it's good for basketball too, especially when the Lakers they didn't play well this year, but you know, coming off of winning a championship last year, when the Lakers play well, you kind of expect the Celtics to be there too.
Yep.
And credit to the Brooklyn Nets. They've built a juggernaut of a team.
For sure.
And
that's where it's going to be tough for Milwaukee, but I do think Milwaukee can do some damage.
They can. I wouldn't be surprised if they won.
I'm still betting on Brooklyn, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Milwaukee won this series.
The fact that I picked Brooklyn, even from the beginning of the season, that they were going to win, because once I heard that Harden was in the mix, and like if they get Harden, it's over.
Yeah.
And they look good. They looked very good, the three of them, with the limited amount of time they play. I think it was 11 games in the regular season.
They're
played
playing well together.
They are playing well together. And they're all the type of guys that complement each other.
Yeah.
James Harden is arguably the greatest playmaker in the game right now.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant is the most diverse scorer. He can beat you in so many ways. Kyrie Irving has the best ball handling skills. Next to Russell Westbrook and De'Aaron Fox, he's probably the most explosive guy in the NBA.
Yeah.
And his defense has been there too, just locked down on the perimeter. So, I still think Brooklyn beats the Bucks the next round, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucks pull up and look better than the Bucks traditionally have.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to come out as flat as they did against Miami last year when they lost 4-1. And Giannis was barely there, so...
No, but with that, I think we're ready to move on to NHL playoffs.
Let's move on to the NHL playoffs.
We actually have not talked about it yet. We tried to, but we just couldn't make it happen. This team...
That team right there.
This team came back from 3-1 to take out the 1 seed in Canada, your Toronto Maple Leafs.
Only the 9th team since 2010 to come back from a 3-1 deficit. And boy, have we heard about this before. Toronto blows another opening round
Wait, you
series.
said 9th team since 2010?
9th team since 2010.
And 2 of those have happened against Toronto.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Nice.
Yeah. It's not a good look for the Leafs.
We definitely have some content planned for this week. A video will be on the Leafs and what they need to do this offseason, so stay tuned.
Yep. So we won't go too much into that, but there definitely something's got to change. It's as a hockey fan, I'm not a Leafs fan. I'm not a Habs fan.
Toronto needs to be better.
They need to be better.
We need to see them.
It's painful to watch.
I was talking to some Sens fans, and even they're like, man, they got to be better than this.
Yeah.
Habs fans obviously loved it.
Yeah. And I mean, you even said it before. I said it in the last show that if the Habs win Game 6, they're winning the series, and they did. You said it right at the beginning. You wouldn't be surprised if Montreal came out and beat Toronto.
Them. Yeah.
And they did. They outworked them, especially on the defensive end.
You said
guys
you'd be surprised.
I would be surprised. I said at the beginning that I'd
Yeah.
be surprised, and then once I saw them win Game 5 and Galchenyuk throw that game away for the Leafs.
Yeah, you were off the wagon real quick once it was past 5, which I agreed with. That was a good take.
I just saw.
I hoped for everybody around me, hoped for this the city of Toronto that they would win.
Yeah, but they didn't.
For the 550 frontline workers, that they would win in Game 7 at least.
The first time Leafs fans can get back in there, and that's what they had to watch. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to watch.
Let's talk about Carey Price. That first goal goes in Game 7 for Montreal.
Yeah.
I told my dad, I'm like, that's all he needs. This game's probably over.
Yeah.
And then they score another, and that was it.
I saw them score the first one, and the Leafs came out. They came out better that first period was just
that first period,
defensive.
nothing happened.
No, nothing happened. It was very much puck was in the neutral zone and just transferred back and forth there.
Yep.
Once the first goal went in, I'm like, oh no. But then once the second one went, I'm like, it went in. I knew it was over at that point because Carey Price might give up one to tie it up, but he's not going to give up multiple goals like that.
You look at their faces, man. The Leafs were not.
They gave up in the third. They were.
Yeah, once the third hit, you saw their face, their body language. They weren't in it, and you need a lot more from a team that talented. Where 4 of your players, I believe, take up half your cap or something.
Yeah.
You need more. Nylander was there. Campbell was there.
But Mitch Marner hasn't scored in 18 straight playoff games. Matthews only scored once this series. They looked defeated, and they looked like this. It was almost like if you didn't know anything about the Leafs, you'd think, oh, this is just something that teams normally don't see. They've seen this before. They know what Game 7s are. They've lost in Game 7s. Yeah. I can list you all the Game 7s that they've lost in their past 6 playoff appearances. Game 7s or Game 5s as like the play-in tournament last year. In win-or-go-home games for either team, they've played in 5 of them in their past 6 playoff appearances.
Yeah.
So they should know, and a lot of these guys were there for those.
Yep.
So they should know what it's like at this point, and it just seems like they don't.
Yeah,
and it looked like they didn't.
I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody that Tavares and Muzzin were both out.
Yep. They were both out.
I still don't think that's enough of an excuse. Tampa Bay won the cup without Steven Stamkos.
There is no excuse because, especially with Tavares, and here's why. They
won 3
They
straight
won
games.
3 straight. They were up 3-1 without Tavares. They know how to play without them, but they don't know how to play in potential progression, like moving on out of the opening series. They don't know how to play in those winning games.
3 chances, but
they had 3 chances, and they blew it to a team that mathematically, if you take the top 16 teams in the league to make the playoffs, they're not there. Montreal's not there.
Oh, yes. Montreal was behind the Rangers.
Montreal was behind the Rangers. Like they finished, they were the lowest point total, like regular season point total in the playoffs this year.
And they were not a top 16 NHL-wide team.
No, they were not.
But with that, let's just move on. We'll talk more about it, I believe, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Colorado, Vegas. So far, you're disappointed. It's still 2-0. Yeah, so this series really will be decided tonight.
Yeah.
As we film Friday evening, afternoon.
Friday afternoon.
It's either going to be 3-0 or 2-1. It's a very big difference between the two.
Yeah.
Vegas very well can win this game. They can very well lose it.
Yep. Because Vegas just has to wipe away that game 1.
Yeah.
Anytime you lose 7-1, it's just regroup, forget it happened. Like
here's the thing, they're already over it. They came back in game 2. They played a fantastic game,
and they lost in overtime.
Colorado so far is just the better team.
Yeah. And I mean, for the sake of my bracket, I hope Vegas plays better.
Either team deserves it.
Either team deserves it. I would not be surprised if Vegas came back and tied this series up in Vegas. And this I'm still gonna say that this series is going the distance.
I hope it does.
I hope it, because it's great hockey to watch.
Yeah, if we have more games like Game 2.
Yeah, that was great hockey.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess I have to apologize for what I said last week about Ryan Reeves, and that Ryan Reeves is a guy that, makes dirty players regret their decisions. And then immediately after I said that, Ryan Reeves went out and did something extremely dumb, drove Ryan Graves' face into the ice. It was a very nasty looking takedown.
Yeah.
And he got suspended for 2 games for it. Yeah, I saw that and really, I just came out here and said, I came out and vouched for this guy that a lot of people don't like, Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
I came out, and to this date, he hasn't been a dirty player, and I think that's also why he got 2 games.
He's had a couple questionable hits, but nothing like...
He's not the guy that you look at as a repeat offender.
Yes.
He doesn't come to mind.
Kadri.
Nothing like Kadri, nothing
Or
like Tom
Wilson.
Wilson. He's not that type of guy.
Yeah.
And then he came out and did that, and yeah, it's it was questionable. I don't really know why he did it. I think it was just came down to frustration.
I think
Graves had hit someone
Matthias
before.
Janmark,
Yeah, Graves hit him.
who's now injured.
Yeah,
And he's been a heart and soul player for Vegas.
he was a big. He was the Game 7 catalyst on that team.
Yep.
He got a hat trick to move them past Minnesota. So
Vegas could be missing Janmark right now.
I think Vegas also, that Game 1 was probably a little gassed after a very tight series in Minnesota. They came back stronger and rested in Game 2, and it looked that way.
Yep.
So, I see this series going the distance.
All right, so let's move on to Carolina-Tampa, another series that looked in doubt with Tampa up 2-0, but Carolina was able to get that OT goal.
Yep.
Thanks to Sebastian Aho.
Yep.
I think this series is going to go the distance. I'll say up front, I didn't expect much out of Tampa Bay against Carolina because I thought Hedman was hurt.
Yep.
Or going to play like he's hurt, which he hasn't.
He has not. Nope.
So I can see Tampa Bay repeating that. The depth, they have the talent. But Carolina is still a formidable opponent, although they're going through injury issues themselves with Trocheck and Fogle out.
Yep.
What do you think so far?
Like the last series we talked about with Colorado and Vegas, I think this one does go the distance too.
Yep.
I've been on the other side. I've been thoroughly impressed with Tampa Bay's power play. Like you said at the start, Nikita Kucherov has been the X factor.
Yeah.
He doesn't play all season. He comes out and he looks like the Nikita Kucherov we're used to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with Carolina's effort. They did stick around. It was a great game in Game 3. So I think this goes the distance. I think, again, when your best defensemen are Dougie Hamilton and Jacob Slavin, you're going to... defense is never going to be an issue, and it hasn't been to this point.
The only downside, again, are the injuries.
Yep.
And they have to figure out goaltending. Mrazek was in and got them that win. Can he do so consistently? And that's what Carolina has to bank on, because if they have to go back to Ned, it's going to be a little sketchy.
Yep. And I don't think at this point you can go back to Nedeljkovic.
No.
You really have to hope that Mrazek's there, because if you have to go back to Ned, it's probably series over.
Yeah.
No, and nothing against Nedeljkovic, but Tampa's just that good that they're going to feast off a new goalie.
It's the second round. You have to know which goalie you're going with.
Yeah, this is not flip-flopping in the first.
No.
They have to make sure Mrazek is consistent, offense has to be there, and the defense has to continue to be the juggernaut that it has to match up with Tampa's juggernaut of a defense.
Yeah, juggernaut of a team.
Yeah.
Boston and the Islanders.
Great series.
Flipping back and forth between wins on this. It's a 2-1 series for Boston.
Yep.
You have a top-heavy and surprisingly deep team.
Yeah.
Pairing well against a legitimate deep team.
Yep.
A good defensive team. I think, again, they'll continue to go back and forth. I have no idea who's going to win this series. I'm still leaning towards the Islanders, but Boston's been fantastic.
And watching Game 3 and seeing the overtime winner that Marchand took, it was not a good goal for Varlamov to let in.
Yeah.
But that's what it's going to take this series. It's going to take bounces. It's going to take putting pucks on net.
Yeah.
Because these teams are just so deep, defensive, offensive powerhouses. Like it's a good, evenly matched series.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to look for those small flukes because these teams don't make a lot of mistakes.
No.
As there was, and they're going to have to capitalize off mistakes. In Game 3, it was Sean Corrali inside the last 3 minutes of the game gets that cross-checking from behind, gets that 2-minute penalty. I thought the Islanders were going to win it there.
Yep.
They were just pressuring Rask with shots, and Rask, he took on the pressure.
He's been the best playoff goalie, in my opinion, for the past few seasons.
Yep.
Last year was a little different because there were personal issues, but
Yep.
outside of that, he's been phenomenal for Boston.
He's made 3 Cup finals.
Yep.
So I hope this is the year. I mean, if for Tuukka Rask's sake, I hope this is the year that he finally gets one of his own. He was Tim Thomas's backup when they last won, so and his career's winding down. Like, there's a lot of guys' careers that are winding down in Boston.
The one thing I will say about Boston is every year for the past few years has looked like their last.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when their poise takes them to another deep run next year.
Everyone's just waiting for Boston's downfall, and it just never shows up.
No.
They're just like, finally, their age is going to catch up to them.
And they lost Torrey Krug.
They lost
Torrey Krug's in St. Louis right now.
Yeah. And they're still, they look okay.
Yep.
They look fine. Mike Riley's been great addition so far on the back end.
Sure. Somehow he wasn't doing it in Montreal. Goes to Boston. He's fantastic. Looking like Morgan Riley.
Yeah. Yeah. He's went farther than Morgan Riley. Watch out for Wednesday's episode.
Oh, man.
So I guess that means we move on.
Yeah, Mike Riley's old team, Montreal and Winnipeg. First off, Mark Scheifele, we're all very disappointed in you. Yep. I purchased a Mark Scheifele jersey, and I believe it came in on Monday, Tuesday, early this week.
Yep.
A day later,
he blows
murders
up Jake Evans.
Jake Evans.
Yeah.
A hit that didn't need to happen. No. I'll note up front, had he played the puck, he could have stopped that goal. Yep. But he played the body. He skated how far? A couple 100 feet?
190 feet.
He charged at him, and then he stopped so he wouldn't get that charging. Yep. Lit him up, headshot, suspension. It wasn't interference, but he came in with a lot of speed. Again, it wasn't a charge, but there was a lot of speed, a lot of force. He lined that hit up, and I don't know how long Jake Evans is going to be out. Hope he comes back soon. Mark Scheifele is now suspended for 4 games. He's not a repeat offender, but this is inexcusable, and it's going to stain his record.
He's definitely not close to that Tom Wilson, Nazem Kadri level of dirty. But this was arguably the dirtiest hit I've seen in a very long time, if ever. That's my opinion. He blew him up. If he had just played the puck, he probably could have stopped that goal, but he decided, he was frustrated, and he decided that I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit him very hard. I don't think anyone. You
have to be dumb to think, because Mark Scheifele's a big guy. He's 6'3". Yeah. I don't know how tall Jake Evans is. I believe he's 6'1". Don't quote me on it. So he's bigger. He's probably heavier. Yeah. He had to have known, unless he was completely mindless in that moment. He had to have known he was going to hurt Jake Evans.
And I'm gonna say it right now, and I'm kind of gonna go off on Scheifele for a bit here. That hit was classless. You do not hit a guy when he is on a wraparound attempt. Anyone who says that Jake Evans has any degree of fault in this is ridiculous. They're wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. This is not Jake Evans skating with his head down at center ice. This is him skating with his head down to guide the puck in the net for a wraparound to potentially close out this game, which he did. The hit happened after the whistle. Mark Scheifele had 190 feet to figure that this was a bad idea, and he didn't. He didn't stop. Didn't play the puck like any other person would have. He went in with the intent to blow this guy up. I can't say for certain that he went in for intent to injure. Only Mark Scheifele knows that.
Yeah. He definitely wanted a big hit.
and I'm going to say this right now. I saw clips from his press conference today. For him to come out and say that his suspension was excessive was, again, classless. Did not have to be said. You take your consequences and you accept them.
Yeah.
You don't comment on it. You can comment on the fact that I think it's equally as ridiculous that his family is receiving threats.
Yeah.
That his family is just hearing the worst. And even he said it. He's like, I'm a grown man. You take that up with me. Like, you don't come after your family, and you don't.
Yeah.
And that, like, I agreed with him in some of the things he was saying, but for him to come out and say that the suspension was excessive is ridiculous. It shows that he's not taking this seriously enough. Thank goodness he didn't put him in the hospital.
Yeah.
Because the team doctors reevaluated Evans. They said he was okay, didn't have to go to the hospital. Apparently he's doing okay now. But for anyone to come out and say this was a clean hit, for anyone to come out and say that 4 games is excessive, it is wrong. They are wrong. This was a terrible hit. Again, worst hit I've seen in some time.
Yeah.
He deserves, like, Winnipeg at this point, he deserves to be the reason why Winnipeg loses at this point. And he will be if Winnipeg loses.
I believe they're going to lose to Montreal. They got the heat they need.
Yep.
Scheifele's out. So that's an offensive threat gone.
Yep.
Montreal has the momentum. They're going to
Yep.
come out hard. They're going to hit some bodies. They're going to make Winnipeg miserable. If
Yep.
Scheifele is able to come back before this series ends,
Yep.
they're going to make Scheifele's life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a good play. And Montreal's got some big boys, so Winnipeg's got to watch out because this team is more talented than we all expected. They're more physical than they're given credit for.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for Winnipeg from here on out, and Montreal could be the 4th seed that wins the Canadian division, the team that shouldn't have made the playoffs because they're below 16.
Yep.
The final team to squeak
shouldn't
into
be
the playoffs. They very well could make the conference finals because of this. And Carey Price has been out of his mind.
He has played.
Their defense has been solid. Their young guys in Suzuki and Kakanyemi have stepped up. Montreal's poised for a good run, especially with the dumb moves Winnipeg have been making.
And I want to give a quick, good guy shout out here for Winnipeg. Nikolai Ehlers.
Yep.
Blocking off that wall scrum so that Evans doesn't get fallen on and further injured. Just quick little shout out to Nikolai Ehlers, the good guy move, and when Mark Scheifele was the bad guy. So,
yes, sir. But that is a wrap for
That is a
episode
wrap.
4. We are in the studio now.
We're in the studio.
Yeah,
Comment below what you guys think of the new setup here. And again, we're filming on a new date.
Friday nights instead of Saturday morning, looking to upload sometime during Saturday.
Yeah.
Not sure when. It's probably going to be in the afternoon or something, maybe evening.
But you'll know when we've uploaded because if you've gotten to this point, you've watched the episode. So
Yes.
yeah.
Along with that new upload schedule, we're going to have videos up Wednesday
Yep.
and Friday, which are going to be a part of our Build or Rebuild series. And
Yep.
then we'll have highlights for you on Thursday and Sunday.
Yeah. Just highlights from the show.
Yeah, on Thursday and
parts.
Sunday. So stay tuned for all that.
Yep. And with that, like this video, subscribe down below. Make sure you follow us on our social media pages so you know when we upload, especially with the new upload schedule.
Yes, they're all in the link tree down below in the description.
Yep. And that's our episode today. We will see you next week, probably on Saturday at some point.
Saturday, yes, sir.
And watch for those uploads. Peace.